who should be held accountable? Top focus on 5 Live.
Three days of coverage, but where's the accountability? 275 people have died, but there's still no one stepping forward and taking responsibility. There are no names, there is no position, there is no designation, there is no office that has been named, and yet we've got so many facts because all of them have been first here on India Today. Well, today we're going to go out on a limb and try and assign blame for what happened. We will take names, we will take positions, we will assign accountability today on India Today. Thanks as always for tuning in. I'm Shiv. These are the headlines. 2 days after meeting Home Minister Amit Shah, top wrestling faces of the protest, Vinesh Fogart, Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punia join government duties, says will continue satyagraha along with their protest. UP gangster Mukhtar Ansari gets life imprisonment. He's been found guilty of the Avdesh Rai murder. Incredible sloth of justice. 32 years after the murder, he's been convicted. Southeast Railway account books access no spending on anti-collision systems in 3 years. Out of 943 crore rupees sanctioned, no money was spent. Rahul Gandhi attacks Modi government in New York over Odisha train tragedy, says Modi driving the car of India, looking at the rearview mirror. Congress Mantri resigned last time a tragedy happened.
The Congress party did not get up and say, now it is the fault of the British that the train has crashed. No, the Congress minister, I remember, said, it is my responsibility the train has crashed. I'm resigning.
Former Pakistan Army chief heckled in France. General Qamar Javed Bajwa is attacked by an Afghan local in Paris, called a murderer and a spreader of jihad.
तो अफगानिस्तान जिहाद करेगी
यार मैं नहीं हूँ यार ठीक नहीं हो भाई आप वीडियो ना बनाए मैं भी पुलिस को बुलाता हूँ
पुलिस तक बुलाओ पुलिस को बुलाओ
There's no end to the politics around the Odisha train crash, and in some ways that is a good thing. We are a democracy. The questions need to be answered, and the opposition is completely within its rights to ask all of the big questions that India Today has first been asking. Moments after the rail minister sought a CBI probe, the opposition has escalated its attack, called it nothing but eyewash and an attempt to prevaricate over the ghastly nature of what has just happened. Mallikarjun Kharge, president of the Congress party, has shot off a letter to the Prime Minister questioning the serious lapses. But can any amount of politics bring back those 275 lives lost in the crash? Watch this report and then we start taking names.
Horrific tragedy and massive politics around it. The Narendra Modi government under fire over the Odisha train tragedy that claimed over 270 lives is getting the CBI to investigate the accident.
जिस सिचुएशन में ये दुर्घटना हुई है और जो परिस्थितियां हैं उन सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए जो कुछ अब तक का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है उस सबको ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे की इंक्वायरी के लिए आगे के इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए इस केस को इस पूरे मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है.
The CBI probe indicates criminality or, in simple terms, the possibility of sabotage. The opposition is not convinced. They are calling it a political gimmick.
प्रधानमंत्री गए, वहाँ मोदी के नारे लगे हमने देखा. रेलवे मंत्री वहाँ उड़ीसा के हैं. 3 ट्रेनों का टकराना सुरक्षा कवच की बात की थी, सुरक्षा कवच नहीं, छोटे मोटे आश्वासन देते हैं, बड़ी बड़ी बातें करते हैं। बुलेट ट्रेन, ये ट्रेन, वो ट्रेन, हाई स्पीड ट्रेन।
Congress chief Mallikarjun Kharge has shot off a letter to Prime Minister Modi questioning the lack of focus on strengthening the railways at the basic level. He also pointed to the NIA investigation into a train derailment in Kanpur that killed 150 people in 2016. The investigation had not proved any conspiracy. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has hit out at the centre and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, citing how ministers quit after tragic mishaps during Congress rule.
I remember a train accident when the Congress party was in power. The Congress party did not get up and say, now it is the fault of the British that the train has crashed. No, the Congress minister, I remember, said, it is my responsibility the train has crashed, I'm resigning.
The BJP was quick to strike back at the Congress.
We don't need certificate of Rahul Gandhi. This Rahul Gandhi has the phobia of Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And while he wants to hate Modi, I don't mind because his nature is like that. But वो मोदी को द्वेष करते करते वो इतना भ्रमित हो गया है, वो देश को ही द्वेष कर रहा है. He is hating the India itself.
The BJP has rallied behind Vaishnav, referring to his 50-hour marathon monitoring of rescue, relief and restoration work. Bureau Report, India Today.
The member of the Railway Board, Jaya Verma Sinha, who gave a presentation to the Prime Minister on the Odisha accident, now explains what exactly happened. She was exclusively on India Today after meeting the Prime Minister.
There were two trains actually coming towards this station. One from this direction. This was Coromandel Express. This was coming from Howrah, Shalimar actually. And this was coming from Bangalore. This is the Yashwantpur Express. This was going towards Kolkata and this was coming from Kolkata. And this train there are signals in advance which tell the driver that which is the route he is going to get. So if he is supposed to take the upline, main line, then he gets a green signal which allows him to go at his maximum speed. If he is to go to the loop line, then he gets a yellow which tells him that you have to go at a slower speed.
Right. So at the time when the train was passing here, both these signals, what is this signal called, ma'am? The outer signal?
It's called a distant
signal, and this signal is called
the home signal.
Home signal. So both the distant signal and the home signal are how far away from each other?
They are nearly a kilometer away.
Okay. So both were green at that time?
Yes, both were green at that point of time because the route was set for the main line, and even this starter, which allows the train to go into the block section, what you call the block section, was also green. So the route was set for a non-stop pass through this station.
Okay.
So the driver understands this and they go at their maximum permissible speed.
So ma'am, when a goods train is kept on the loop line, I'm sure the station master is well aware of the train which is there stationary and which ones are passing and which ones are not.
Oh yes, yes.
And therefore when this Coromandel Express passes from here, why does it move over here into the loop?
That we don't know. That whether it actually went on the loop or whether something happened here and then the derailment made it get onto this area and the other areas, because it was at a very, very high speed. It was at a high speed, and at that high speed, if some mishap happens on whatever reason, the kind of disruption to the entire area is so huge that you can't really make out whether the train moved this way or it was going this way and it derailed and the impact led it to climb here. That will all come out in the detailed inquiry. There are a lot of forensic and other things are involved. From whatever we have seen from the data logger inputs, data logger is a record of what happened during that period. there was no signaling error apparently. These signals were green, the route was set for the main line, and the driver was following the appropriate speed and the signal instructions.
Okay.
So apparently there was no error at this level. However, this mishap has occurred. So there is a possibility that there was some kind of a problem in this area. With what exactly, that will come out of the inquiry. But certainly something was wrong in this area which caused this accident and a major chaos.
Ma'am, also the rail minister said that it's something to do with the electronic interlocker. Now, what is an electronic interlocker?
Interlocking.
Interlocking.
Yeah. Electronic interlocking in simple terms is means to ensure that all your signaling is actually reflecting the status of the path that has been set for the train. So,
for example?
For example, if there is obstruction on this line, then this signal cannot turn green.
Okay.
That's an interlocking. So the logic is built in such a way that if this section is blocked, it will appear as red for the track from the track circuit that is there. There's a track circuit running along here.
So, what is the track circuit?
It's a simple electric mechanism through which a very low voltage current is passed here, and it actually detects the presence of any kind of a vehicle over the line. This is called a point where you can actually move this point and decide which route the train can take. If the point is set for normal, then the route is for moving straight, and if the point is what we call set for reverse, then it is set like this, and the route will go like this, and then the locomotive and the train will go like this. This kind of an incident is not directly related to Kavach, because Kavach is normally for the line on which the train is supposed to move. There is equipment in the loco and there is equipment in the ground which communicate to each other, and the loco is able to sense whether there is any obstruction on the path it has been given. And in case it discovers there is an obstruction on the same route that it is supposed to take, then brakes are applied automatically. In this particular case, and that happens when the train has adequate distance to apply its brakes. So this was moving at 130 kmph, and this was hardly a 100-meter stretch. So if there was any obstruction here, there was not adequate time for the loco's brake to effectively stop the train. There is no technology available which can suddenly stop a train which is moving at such a high speed.
Ma'am, have you totally ruled out the sabotage angle in this area yet?
No, nothing has been ruled out, and in fact you might be aware that a CBI inquiry is being ordered into this area. They will ascertain whether there was any other angle to the thing or not.
So you've seen what the Railway Board knows and what they don't know. They've also not ruled out the sabotage angle. They don't know how and whether the Coromandel Express went into that loop line. So there are many very crucial missing pieces of this puzzle. And yet, accountability can already be fixed, because India Today has accessed the pink books of the Southeast Railway Zone, which shows zero. Viewer, listen to my words very carefully. Zero expenditure on train collision systems in the last 3 years. The Southeastern Railways have spent 0 rupees on anti-collision systems in the last 3 years. Data access shows how budget was allocated nearly 1,000 crore rupees, but was never really spent or not spent at all. Take a look at this data. 780 crore rupees was sanctioned for the year 2020-21. No money spent. 162 crore rupees sanctioned in 2021-22. No money spent. Zero. This is data till March 2022 for the Southeast Railway. That makes a total of about 940 crore rupees sanctioned by the government for the Southeast Railway, and not a penny has been spent on anti-collision systems, which is very much supposed to happen. Ritik Mandal, one of the first journalists on site in Balasore when the accident happened, is still on site. And India Today will not be moving from this story anytime soon until accountability is fixed. Is with me live once again from Balasore. Ritik, the railway minister has called for a CBI inquiry. The rail board, has just illustrated in a most detailed manner what may have gone wrong. They have not ruled out the sabotage angle as well. What are you picking up from the ground? In what direction is the investigation headed this time, Ritik?
Well, currently we are waiting, for CBI team to arrive at the, accident spot, and we are being told that any moments from now, the team of CBI officials will be reaching to the accident spot, and definitely during today we did see several officials of Railway Safety Board. They inquired into this matter, and now all angles are now heading towards the probing agencies and of course the probing angles. There are many more things yet to there are many more things which are unanswered. Shiv, one, the role of the station master who was in charge on that date of the of that station, who was in controlling the relay room of that controlling panel, because it comes at a very it plays a very good important role. Now what we also can see currently, what is the situation is on ground zero, Shiv, that both the lines and down and up lines have been restored. Movements of passengers and goods trains are continuously going on since this morning on both the tracks. Simultaneously, Shiv, what we can see that the restoration works are underway on the loop lines, but the drivers have been instructed to take the trains on this particular section of the Balasore's division at a speed of 20 kilometers per hour. So it looks like that many more things happening at a time when restorations works are underway, and the probing agencies, simultaneously the Railway Safety Board and the central agency CBI, to step in the probing issues. And there are many more things, many more officials and many more people related to matter are yet to questions by these probing agencies. Back to you.
Okay, Ritik, thanks very much for getting us that update, which means that the investigation is headed towards assigning that accountability. And in a moment from now, we'll be taking some of those big questions and those hard accountability elements also as part of our coverage, because India Today, the only channel that is reporting the facts without any silly hyperbole like many of our competitors. Now, I want to show you what the data about train accidents has looked like for the last 4 decades. Just take a look at this data, viewer. Between 1980 and 1990, 10 years, there have been a total of 475 collisions, a total of 6,242 derailments, crossing accidents about 677, and train fires have amounted to about 176. That's a total of 7,570. Now let's get to the next decade. Between 1990 and 2000, there have been 309 collisions. There have been 3,137 derailments. Crossing accidents have taken place. There have been about 596 fires, 68. Total 4,110. So significantly lower decade on decade. Now let's go to the next decade, 2000 to 2010. There have been 135 collisions, 1,680 derailments, 803 crossing accidents, 93 fires, total of 2,700 accidents. 2010 to 2022, that's about 12 years. Take a look at the data. 50 collisions, 631 derailments, 354 crossing accidents, 62 fires, a total of just under 1,100 accidents. So if you look at the trend, viewer, it's been coming down steadily over the years. That doesn't mean that each accident isn't unacceptable and something that needs to be condemned, and the core reason for it needs to be arrived at as quickly as possible. But that is just to give you a sense of how things have actually become a whole lot safer if you compare it to earlier. Now, the restoration work, like Ritik was pointing out, is over. It took 51 hours to get the work done, and trains are finally running back on the tracks. Ritik Mondal visited the state control room in Balasore for a full laydown on how all of this works. It's difficult. Those bogies needed to be moved, the tracks needed to be tested, and then trains can finally ply. Here's how it all came together.
Senior officials of railway, they have arrived at the Bahanagar railway station and they have visited the station master room, and what we can show you that currently this is the particular, the panel where this how the system runs, and this you can see these are the tracks which are being controlled by the station authority. It has two separate main line. These are the main lines where this main accident, the collision between a passenger train and a goods train happened. And these are those two those loop line in which one of which on this particular track that that goods train was standing and that Coromandel Express was coming from this direction, and suddenly it got entered to the loop line wrongfully and then collided with the train. And on the other way, another passenger train was running. So this is the situation. We can see, we can show you that this is the particular panel is being controlled, and this is the actual fact that what exactly is happening here.
Well, all that's left behind are over 200 families of the 275 people who lost their lives. Families in need of dire assistance in taking back their loved ones home. So far, 151 bodies have been identified. All bodies after due process are being handed over for transfer to their destinations. My colleague Apurva with this ground report.
An eerie silence dawns even as bodies keep piling up here at AIIMS Bhubaneswar mortuary here where we are at, and as you can see, bodies that are being handed over back to their families. Victims, all of them who had died at the Balasore train accident. Police there who are verifying the process as well. All of these bodies that have been kept here at the AIIMS Bhubaneswar hospital are bodies that have been unverified bodies, all of them that police are trying to trace and track back to the families of the loved ones who have arrived here. We're here at the help desk, which is also being set up. All verification process that is being done by Bhubaneswar police to ensure that the families of the victims can arrive here, seek answers for the questions, and also take back their loved ones as well. Ambulances, as you can see right behind me, being piled up. All of these ambulances that are on standby here for families of the victims, with intense regularization and with the intense kind of screening that the police officials also have to deal with. Definitely a Herculean task for them, as they have to identify the victims, identify the families of the victims, and also ensure that they be able to safely return back the mortal remains of once loved ones back to their family. With video journalist Chandu, Apurva Jayachandran, India Today.
The dead, the survivors, the grieving, the families, and then there are the heroes, the locals of Odisha's Balasore, who were the first to rush to everyone's rescue when the horrific triple train collision happened on Friday. From pulling out multiple bodies to providing medical help to the injured to donating blood, these brave hearts have been recalling some of their experiences of that fateful night. And let's not forget their trauma as well. Take a look at this report as we pay tribute to Balasore's brave hearts.
Overturned coaches, lifeless bodies, injured passengers all around. India's worst train tragedy in more than 2 decades struck Odisha on Friday. Amid blood and death all over, the residents of Balasore emerged as heroes. The people of this sprawling northern Odisha city emerged as the first respondent in a catastrophic tragedy. Hundreds rushed to the accident site immediately after the mishap.
बहुत जोर से आवाज हुआ, मैं उनके पास गया, और बहुत आदमी मर चुके था, डेथ हो गया था बहुत आदमी का, और जिंदा भी था। जिंदा जो आदमी को एम्बुलेंस हॉस्पिटल भेजा, ठीक है, वो और ट्रैक्टर में हम लोग जो दोस्त थे, तो उनके एक बगी से बहुत लोगों मर गया था। वो 8 आदमी डेथ हो गया और 2 आदमी जिंदा था।
Using the faint flashlights of their mobile phones, the residents made their way into the badly mangled coaches. Pulling out injured, offering them first aid, rushing them to hospital.
जब इस तरह की स्थिति हो गई थी और अंदर लोग चीखते चिल्लाते हुए लोगों को सहायता के लिए बुला रहे थे, तब आप लोग अंदर गए कंपार्टमेंट के?
जी, कंपार्टमेंट के अंदर गए। अपन 8 लोग थे। अपन 8 लोग थे। अब जो मृत हो चुके थे उनसे तो अपनी निगाह पे
स्पॉट डेड लोग मिले।
स्पॉट डेड लोग भी मिले, कुछ गंभीर रूप से घायल थे।
किस तरह का चोट?
ज्यादा चोटें सर में आई थी, किसी का धड़ अलग था, किसी का सर अलग था, किसी का शरीर सेमी पार्ट ही गायब था, किसी का पैर ही गायब था। इस तरह के
भयंकर दृश्य,
छत बिछत सौ हम लोगों ने देखा वहाँ पे।
तो आप लोगों ने अपने हाथों से निकाला शवों को?
जी, हाथों से निकाला।
और जो लोग जिंदा बच के मतलब ज्यादा जख्मी नहीं हुए थे, उनको भी आप लोगों ने हेल्प किया निकलने में?
जी, उनको हम लोगों ने बस स्टैंड तक भेजा अपनी टीम की मदद से।
Providing a helping hand to cops and fire brigade officials and eventually disaster response teams. Hundreds of Balasor's bravehearts stayed put throughout the night and on Saturday aiding the rescue operation and helping rail officials.
का मालगाड़ी बहुत मालगाड़ी था,
यानी 4 नंबर ट्रैक जो है वहाँ पर एक मालगाड़ी था
और 5 नंबर में
उस तरफ, यानी बिल्कुल आउटर सेक्शन में
तार पछ नांगटा पछपट अछि जने,
यहाँ से और एक ट्रेन गुजर गया
जने माने ये नीला बाना जो वो था, और यहाँ पे वो ट्रेन आया एक्सप्रेस, ये भाग गया और वो ट्रेन आया। हम इधर से बात करते कथा था, हम 2 जन हमारा लेबर में बसचु, वो ट्रेन आया जो मालगाड़ी ना तो ऊपर डायरेक्ट चढ़ गया।
Offering food and water to stranded passengers, rescue workers and officials amid sweltering summer heat. Thanks to these good Samaritans, hundreds of lives were saved from the mangled wreckage of the bogies. Hundreds of Balasore and other cities of Odisha residents flocked to blood banks and hospitals to donate blood for the accident victims. Long queues were seen outside blood banks as people patiently waited for their turn. Prime Minister Narendra Modi lauded the courage and compassion of the people and their selfless rescue work, saying thank you Odisha.
मैं उड़ीसा सरकार का भी, यहाँ के प्रशासन के सभी अधिकारियों का, जिन्होंने जिस तरह से इस परिस्थिति में अपने पास जो भी संसाधन थे लोगों की मदद करने का प्रयास किया, मैं यहाँ के नागरिकों का भी हृदय से अभिनंदन करता हूँ।
In the darkest moment, the people of Balasore shined with exemplary courage and selflessness. With Indrajit Kundu and Satyajit in Balasore, Odisha, Bureau Report, India Today.
Amidst the blood and death of the Odisha train accident has been the familiar echo from several political parties calling for the resignation of the railway minister of the country. To us here in India, these calls for resignations every time a tragedy or a scam takes place is very familiar, isn't it? Train accident, minister must resign. Ministry has mishandled funds, minister must take responsibility and step down. All parties and all netas have done it at one time or another. If you look hard enough, every big political leader at one point or another has demanded the resignation of a sitting government leader. Right now, everyone from Mamata Banerjee to Rahul Gandhi are calling for the resignation of the railway minister. At one time or the other, every neta becomes a resignation jivi, smacking their lips and crying for someone's istifa. One BJP leader, remember Ravi Shankar Prasad, he became the patron saint of these resignation jivis. Not only was he calling for resignations when he was in the opposition, The habit was so firmly entrenched, he was calling for resignations of rivals even when he became a minister. But this is a serious issue. It's not a joke. And having established that this is a bipartisan disease, this resignation GV, allow me to offer my 2 bits. For one thing, stop this resignation nonsense. Ministers are elected representatives. They are chosen by the people, and if a tragedy or a scam takes place, the people would like to see these ministers pay for their neglect or corruption, unceremoniously discharged from their ministership if necessary, and if applicable, acted against as per the law of the land. Moral responsibility sounds deep and meaningful, but it is useless, viewer. Shallow escape route for politicians. Would you rather a minister take moral responsibility and resign and not face anything? Or would you rather that he stay, do his or her job to fix what they messed up on and failed to stop, and then stay on in the hot seat to face the music? In this country of ours, where irony is a daily affair, the same netas roaring for the resignation of the railway minister are understandably silent following the collapse of a bridge in Bihar the very next day. Well, amidst Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar's active efforts to be an opposition unity magnet, nobody wants to step out of line and demand Nitish's resignation. Do the same standards not apply? But my point, as you've no doubt heard, is different. Neither should resign, not Ashwini Vaishnav and not Nitish Kumar. Both must be held to account. Both must be made to fix what has happened on their watch, because nobody can deny that the buck stops with them. Remember that calls for resignation also give those in power a chance to divert by playing victim and blaming the accuser of playing politics. Ravi Shankar Prasad made demands for resignation so famous and farcical that the act of doing so was reduced to an internet meme. Even now people make fun of him. And please, the country doesn't need more resignation GVs. What it does need is unsparing pressure for accountability. And getting back to our news breaks now, let's get you the very latest that we're bringing to you. Airfares are zooming after the Odisha train accident. The Civil Aviation Minister Jyotiraditya Scindia has just chaired a meeting on surge pricing, predatory pricing by airliners in the country. Minister Scindia says airlines must self-monitor fares and control prices, especially at a time of a humanitarian crisis when people are trying to get desperately from one place to another. Let's go straight across to India Today's Nagarjun Dwarkanath for more on this. Naga, crisis time is always a time when, airlines usually try and make a quick buck. Civil Aviation Minister cracking the whip now in the wake of the Odisha tragedy.
Well, that is true, Shiv. The minister himself has spoken to all the heads of the airline, asking them to monitor the ticket prices. In off late, what we are seeing when we go to any website to book our tickets, we are at the Odisha route, we are seeing a surge prices. Bangalore Odisha used to be around, or Delhi Odisha used to be somewhere around 5,000 to 7,000 in that bracket. But off late, after the train accident, where many people are reaching to Odisha and coming out of Odisha, the tickets have shot up more than 20,000 in certain cases. Hence, the minister has spoken to all the heads of the airline industry, saying that they have to keep a check in the prices and also monitor the prices regularly. And not just that, but also the freight charges, the cargo charges, moving the mortal remains of the families at free of cost, as the airlines have to come for the help of people during the dire times, is what the minister has said. And he has got a positive response from the airlines, is what we are told. The airlines will definitely keep a tab on the reservation chart and also the pricing cap.
Naga, thanks very much for getting us that latest. That'll be a piece of relief for those looking with consternation and worry at the huge costs of air tickets these days in several places. Civil Aviation Minister stepping in. We'll keep our viewers updated on that very important story now. Quick break. Coming up on the other side, former Pakistan Army chief has gone viral. General Qamar Javed Bajwa was heckled in France by an Afghan local. And the audio in this video needs to be heard to be believed. It's stunning. It's gone completely viral. You'll know why when we show you the whole thing after this break. Stay with us.
كليسات انا نوت كليسات دي ما في خيل ولورنا دي ما في خيل وكليسات انا نوت كليسات.
इस विषय में पॉइंट मशीन की बात है, इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंटरलॉकिंग की बात है। इलेक्ट्रॉनिक इंटरलॉकिंग में जो चेंज किया जिसके कारण ये दुर्घटना हुई, जिसने भी किया, जिसने भी जो भी इसके कारण है वो इन्वेस्टिगेशन से निकलेगा। जिस सिचुएशन में ये दुर्घटना हुई है और जो परिस्थितियां हैं उन सब को ध्यान में रखते हुए जो कुछ अब तक का एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव इंफॉर्मेशन मिली है उस सब को ध्यान में रखते हुए आगे की इंक्वायरी के लिए, आगे के इन्वेस्टिगेशन के लिए इस केस को, इस पूरे मामले को सीबीआई के पास देने का रेलवे बोर्ड की तरफ से रिकमेंडेशन किया जा रहा है। जिस तत्परता के साथ प्रधानमंत्री श्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने काम करने के आदेश दिए थे, पूरी टीम ने उसी तत्परता के साथ काम करके एक प्रॉपर सिस्टम से दोनों की दोनों पटरियों को रिस्टोर कर दिया है और दुर्घटना के, इस भयानक दुर्घटना के 51 घंटे के अंदर अंदर वापस ट्रेन का मूवमेंट नॉर्मलाइज हो गया है।
Quality today. In Delhi, 137. In Mumbai, 66. In Kolkata, 39. In Bangalore, 58. In Chennai, 148. In Hyderabad, 66.
Make your media plan smarter with India Today Live TV on your connected devices. Amplify your brand with 100 million smart internet viewers. To advertise, mail us at sales@aajtak.com.
Big boost to India's vision of emerging as a manufacturing powerhouse. Taiwanese giant Foxconn will start manufacturing iPhones in Bengaluru by 2024. While Foxconn's expansion is undoubtedly advantage to India, an embarrassing fight for credit has erupted in Karnataka. The Siddaramaiah government is trumpeting Foxconn investment, calling it a huge boost for Karnataka.
BJP is not aware of the origins of manufacturing of iPhones in India. Probably they should look into their own government orders, and they should then they will realize that the seeds of it was sown when I was the IT/BT minister, when Wistron came and started their first manufacturing plant here in Karnataka. Either ways, if they really want to take credit, they can. Ultimately, Karnataka's win.
See, this is like when the Mars orbiter was put in space. The Prime Minister was not even the Prime Minister for a few days, and we saw how he took credit for the when he himself, instead of giving the credit to the scientists, he himself went to Shiv Aroor. So, government is always in continuum. We have to do good work. That is what is important.
The Karnataka BJP and its leaders has hit back, claiming it was Basavaraj Bommai's win.
What they have not done, how can they claim credit? It's all been done by our government, and that time they were making a mockery, they were making all kind of statements, and they criticized us. So that is what is indicating now itself. In future, next 5 years, we are not going to do anything. Now we will try to gain credit for what has been done by the previous government.
On March 3rd, then Karnataka Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai had met the Foxconn chairman. He too announced that an agreement had been signed with the iPhone maker.
They had shown interest. They had been visiting so many times. And then ultimately they saw the land, their chairman came, saw the land. And then they wanted some policy change we brought in. They saw our policies, they accepted it. And they had their own survey as far as high-tech human manpower and all. And we signed a LOI.
The 13,600 crore rupees Foxconn project is expected to create 50,000 jobs. Foxconn's expansion in India will increase India's participation in the global electronics market and give a push to the Prime Minister's flagship Atmanirbhar Bharat mission in the cutting-edge sector. While iPhone production tripled in India last year, it still accounts for only 7% of Apple's total iPhone output. Bureau Report, India Today.
Why does this happen? Let me tell you the science behind it.
For more informative videos like this, keep watching India Today News Mo.
Introducing the most viral video of the day, viewer. I don't know if you've seen it or not. It's all over the internet, but you are going to see it here on India Today in just a moment. In case you haven't recognized the guy in the blue t-shirt there, that is former Pakistan Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa. Well, he's retired and he's peacefully holidaying in France with his wife, except that someone locally recognized who he was and decided to take matter into his own hands. This is embarrassing. Now remember, India Today does not endorse heckling or attacks of any kind, but this really sends out a message about the state of Pakistan and the country's international reputation, including its highest military officer at one point of time. Take a look at this.
General Qamar Bajwa heckled. Former Pakistan Army Chief and his wife were in Annecy, an alpine town in France, where an Afghan civilian hurled expletives at the couple. In the clip, which went viral on social media, a man can be heard abusing General Bajwa and his wife in Pashto, a language widely spoken in Afghanistan. General Bajwa threatened to hand the angry man over to the police, but he did not budge and continued to hurl abuses at him. The heckler accused General Bajwa of human rights violations and misconduct. He blamed the former army chief for aiding the Taliban in destroying Afghanistan.
For 40 years, they've been betrayed by name of jihad. And the other face, when we're seeing the political or the politician of the Pakistan, they dress up with like Western people, and also they are look like Western people. They not look like anything like jihadis or Muslim or anything like that. This is an innocent Afghan asking for his right, and why he has done it to his family, possibly.
Pakistan provided financial and logistical support to the Taliban during the US war. They played a key role in installing a hardline regime in Kabul after the US withdrawal. It's a gamble that is boomeranging. The sympathizers of Taliban are carrying out attacks on Pakistani soil, leading friction between Islamabad and Kabul. Bureau Report, India Today.
Now, the person who was heckling General Qamar Javed Bajwa was an Afghan immigrant who lives in France. You could hear the anger in the voice as he continued to rain expletives and anger at General Bajwa. There is a lot of history there between Afghanistan and Pakistan that you saw in that tiny little clip that's gone completely viral. But that rage and that anger in many ways is perhaps understandable. And I want to get you a voice of someone from Afghanistan. Nilofer Ayubi is joining me live from Warsaw, Poland. She happens to be an Afghan journalist in exile. She lives in Poland just now. Nilofer, thank you very much for your time and for speaking to India Today. You know, we're all watching this video clip, and I'm sure you've seen it as well, Nilofer, of the Pakistan, former army chief being heckled, being shouted at, being abused by this Afghan local, an unidentified Afghan, person in France. What do you make of it? How do you explain it, Nilofer? What are your sentiments?
Thank you so much for having me. First of all, if you ask me as an Afghan individual, as somebody who is currently in exile and had to leave everything behind because of the Taliban takeover, and of course because there was a huge help and support and involvement by the Pakistan government and especially Pakistani military. As an Afghan, I think any one of us would be giving the same treatment to Pakistan officials who are involved in the current state of Afghanistan. But as an activist and as a human rights defenders, I think it was inappropriate, especially when the family was with him, and we do not endorse or encourage any such acts against an individual and their families, especially when they're not in their position, right?
Yes.
But overall, if you take it, it's the karma. It's what you do and what you get. When you send 40 million people into chaos, into poverty, into war, and then a lot of us, like 6-7 million of us, was forced in exile and now living away from our home. We weren't even able to carry our own stuff. We had to. You remember the airport scene in Afghanistan. So apparently this man, my Afghan brother, he has gone through the same humiliation and through the same pain, and that's what you see in this video.
Yes.
And he's clearly stating the facts that for 20 years you sponsored Taliban against us, you sent terror to us, you endorsed Sharia and jihad upon us while you and your family casually vacationing in Paris. And what you see him talking about the appearance or the clothes or the attires his daughter is wearing, which I'm very happy that he did not video the children, because they have nothing to do with this. But this is quite frustrating when you see this. Of course, this frustration goes very deep down into any Afghan heart and soul, but we do not endorse such behaviors.
Nilofer, thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for being so honest. I agree with you that, heckling is not something we should endorse, especially with a family there, but there is a history to what this is. This is not just meaningless anger. There is a background to this anger, and it comes really from the bottom of people's hearts. And that's the reason why we've decided to even show this story. We very much appreciate your time, Nilofer. Stay safe. Thank you very much for being with us here on India Today.
Thank you so much.
And now let's tell you a little bit about someone who is in contention for the Republican presidential candidacy in the United States. We are familiar with her here in India. It's Nikki Haley, a former governor who now wants to be a presidential candidate. Except she's put out a tweet just now talking about how if we want to take on pollution in the world, then we must confront India and China, two of the world's biggest polluters. That's what Nikki Haley has just said on her Twitter account, and it hasn't gone down well at all. If we want to be serious about saving the environment, we need to confront India and China. They are some of the biggest polluters, says Nikki Haley, senator and high-profile contender for the Republican presidential candidate. Haley is of Indian origin, as everyone knows, and usually has a stance that can be interpreted as, well, pro-India. We know that Haley has pronounced anti-China views, but this tweet of hers, where she clubs India and China as the world's worst pollution offenders, doesn't quite have any legs. For starters, when it comes to absolute emissions, the United States is the world's #2 polluter, only behind China and way ahead of India and other countries. In terms of per capita emissions, which is a much more accurate index of any country's contribution to global pollution, the United States, viewer, is by far the #1 polluter on earth, outstripping other top nations by miles. India isn't even in the top 10 of the world's biggest per capita polluters. Now, obviously, none of this is to suggest that India isn't a polluter. As a rising power and an exploding population that we have, this country has enormous pollution-related challenges to address, while balancing the aggressive needs of development and modernization. But that doesn't mean India should stand around and accept being a punching bag for a presidential ticket hopeful in the United States, should it? The Indian-American community is not only one of the most influential in the US, but also one of the most crucial in several parts of the United States. If Nikki Haley is interested in a real discussion on pollution, she should consider dehyphenating India and China, getting real. Maybe Haley has bunged India into her tweet about China in an effort to offset her own Indianness. I can only guess, because as a global superpower, the United States has often positioned itself as a leader in international affairs. Nikki Haley's time would be better spent then questioning US environmental policies and actions and Washington's commitment to global environmental responsibilities, especially since it is the US that has withdrawn from international agreements like the Paris Agreement and failed to meet emission reduction targets. If Nikki Haley wants to be taken seriously on pollution, she can feel free to confront India. But if she doesn't also confront the United States, then her credibility will be much like America's own when it comes to being a global environmental police. Well, that's it on 5 Live. Thanks so much for watching. Up next, I'm on 6 p.m. with Nabila, brings you the biggest story of the day from the wrestlers' protest. They've decided to rejoin their government duties, but their protest will not end. How does that work? We tell you next. Other opposition parties, including the Shiv Uddhav faction, RJD and PDP, struck a different note, demanding the railway minister's resignation.
3 ट्रेनें टकरा गई, ये मियर नेग्लिजेंस है, बेफिक्री है। तो जिम्मेदारी किसकी है? जिम्मेदारी रेलवे मंत्रालय की है। लेकिन इस सरकार में इतना बड़ा हादसा होने के बावजूद मंत्री जिम्मेदारी नहीं लेता है। हाँ, नैतिकता के आधार पर मंत्री ने इस्तीफा देना चाहिए।
जिस तरह से इन लोगों ने लापरवाही बरता, सावधानी नहीं बरता और इतना बड़ा संख्या में कैजुअलिटी हो गई है, जो खबर है लगभग 800 लोगों की मृत्यु हुई है, बेसी भी होने की काफ़ी संभावना है। इसकी उच्च स्तरीय जांच कराया जाए और पूरा जो दोषी लोग हैं इसमें जिसकी संलिप्तता है उस पर कार्रवाई करना चाहिए।
I can call it only as a crime, not as a tragedy. It is a tragedy committed by the government. The only people responsible for this killing is the government of India. Taking that responsibility, the moral responsibility and the political responsibility, I demand the railway minister should resign immediately.
The BJP, on its part, has refused to be part of the political showdown.
They are doing their job, but they are trying to politicize it. I think it is not the right time to politicize this kind of incident. Central government, especially the railway department, is taking care of all these things. And we also thank the Naveen Patnaik ji. His government has done an excellent job.
The railway minister has announced a special committee to investigate the reasons behind the tragedy. But will accountability be fixed?
Weather forecast now. Delhi, maximum 41 and minimum 26 degrees. Mumbai, maximum 33 and minimum 28 degrees. Kolkata, maximum 41 and minimum 28 degrees. Bangalore, maximum 29 and minimum 22 degrees. Chennai, maximum 36 and minimum 29 degrees. Hyderabad, maximum 39 and minimum 24 degrees.
See, all these reports in the public, I would probably label them as speculation, right? If and when we file a DRHP or have a plan, right, firstly, we will share it with the regulatory authorities and obviously the media and then all our stakeholders.
So as of now, there are no IPO plans. You're not confirming, not denying.
Yeah, I don't think these are things that we can even discuss on the public, because the right process there is, even if you have, if you come there and if you have a plan, it's first regulatory, right? Then comes the public discussions.
You know, Bhavish also tweeted regarding that cell gigafactory manufacturing of lithium-ion cells company now focusing towards small commercial vehicles. Give us a outline of the whole development there.
See, the part of the cell gigafactory that is public is the fact that we have won a 20 gigawatt hour PLI ACC scheme, right? So that part is absolutely public, and it is our responsibility to keep updating the government from time to time on the progress. In fact, we have fortnightly meetings with the government to update them on the progress, because this is a very, in the government's words, this is a very important project for the country, because it's a high-tech cell manufacturing area globally. And, you know, India has all the ingredients to break the monopoly that China has today. 90% of cell manufacture in the world is in China, right? But China does not have any lithium, right? It is just the intelligent capex and technology that they've invested in. And India wants to become a global hub of cell manufacture, just like the other 13 or 14 sectors, high-tech sectors where government has announced PLIs. So the government is picking and choosing which area to play in and create an impact at the world stage. So our cell factory has started, and we are on track with the timelines that we are committed to the government of India. And hence we have sort of reported the progress also, both in the private and the public domain. As you saw, we are done with our foundations. We will come live sometime in November. We have committed to the government that the first gigawatt hour will be commissioned before the end of this calendar year. If you look at the discoveries of lithium that are happening, by the way, lithium is in plenty in the world, actually. It's not a scarce mineral. It is just that we have not exploded enough simply because there were no EV vehicles earlier. So if you look at India itself, two great discoveries have been announced in Rajasthan and Jammu Kashmir. And we will
buy Voltas Pure Air 6-stage adjustable AC. Co-powered by घर लेना हो या बेचना 99 acres से ही पूछना. Ajio Big Bold Sale.
Big twist in Dangal for justice. Days after meeting Home Minister Shah. Top Dharna faces joint government duty. Shakshi, Vinesh, Bajrang back at work. But wrestlers adamant on WFI boss arrest.
आंदोलन से जो स्टेप है वो बिल्कुल वापस नहीं लिया है और ना ही लेंगे जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिल जाता हमारी लड़ाई हमारा सत्याग्रह जारी रहेगा.
What happens to wrestlers' protest now? Top focus on 6 p.m. Prime with Nabila Jamal.
Good evening, you're watching 6 p.m. Prime. I'm Nabila Jamal. Our top focus this evening, a big twist in the wrestlers' protests. A month after sit-in protests, wrestlers have now withdrawn. The top wrestlers, including Vinesh Phogat, Sakshi Malik and Bajrang Punia, have withdrawn from the protest site but not from the cause. They're going to continue in solidarity, protesting against the Wrestling Federation of India's chief, Brij Bhushan, calling for his arrest. I'm going to take you through exactly what happened through the course of the day. The headlines first. Restoration of train tracks completed within 51 hours, 2 days ahead of deadline. India Today accesses first images of loco pilot and assistant. Most crucial statement in the case.
जिन परिवारों के मेंबर्स खो गए उनको किसी न किसी जल्दी से जल्दी उनके पास उनके परिवारजन पहुंचे ये हमारा दायित्व.
UP gangster Mukhtar Ansari gets life imprisonment. He's been found guilty of Avdesh Rai's murder. In fact, here we're looking at allegations of no expenditure on the railway tracking system, Kavach. Only 4% of trains across India have the Kavach system. The rest of them yet to be implemented. Allegations on the Modi government for not ensuring safety of passengers. Rahul Gandhi's attack on Modi government in New York over Odisha train tragedy, says Modi driving the car of India looking at the rearview mirror. Congress Mantri resigned last time over the tragedy. This is Rahul Gandhi's claim that the Congress has taken responsibility, unlike the BJP.
The Congress party did not get up and say, now it is the fault of the British that the train has crashed. No, the Congress minister, I remember.
UP gangster Mukhtar Ansari gets life imprisonment. He's been found guilty of Avdesh Rai's murder. Conviction has come 32 years after murder took place. US Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin slams China on his India visit, says won't tolerate coercion and bullying. Former Pakistan Army Chief General Bajwa heckled in France while he was on a holiday with his wife. Afghan civilian accuses him, insults him, records the video, makes it viral online.
तो अफगानिस्तान में जहाद करेगी यार मैं नहीं हूँ यार ठीक नहीं हो भाई आप वीडियो ना बनाए मैं पुलिस को बुलाता हूँ पुलिस तक बुलाओ पुलिस को बुलाओ
Wrestlers of India, many of them Olympians, have been sitting in protest for over a month, and now a new twist has come in the protest as these front runners, the faces who are poster boys and girls of the protest, Bajrang Punia, Vinesh Phogat, Sakshi Malik. Three of the main faces have now withdrawn from the protest site and have gone back to their railway job, a government job that was awarded to them by the government. In fact, this dangal, it was nearly reaching its end. The ace grapplers, Sakshi Malik, Bajrang Punia, Vinesh Phogat front runners of this ongoing restless protest have gone back to their routine jobs. This comes after wrestlers meeting with the Home Ministry on Saturday at his residence in Delhi, in which the wrestlers reiterated their demand for arrest on WFI Chief Brij Bhushan, saying they will not call off their protest until Brij Bhushan is arrested. But early this morning, there was news that broke out that Sakshi Malik, Vinesh Phogat and Brij Bhushan and Bajrang Punia, in fact all three of them, have decided to call off the protest, sit in protest and go back to their regular jobs, but they are going to still protest in solidarity. Their satyagraha will continue. That's what Sakshi Malik says. She has clarified after there were lots of questions being raised on their withdrawal, sudden withdrawal from the protest site. Sakshi Malik gave out a clarification saying they will certainly continue protesting against Brij Bhushan and calling for arrest and also asking for an overhaul of the Wrestling Federation of India. Remember, this comes just days after protesting wrestlers went all the way to Haridwar in an attempt to immerse their medals into River Ganga. They were stopped by farmer leaders at that point in time. They promised that they're going to come back, dared the government and the police that if action is not taken in 5 days' time, we're going to come back to the same spot and we'll throw away medals into the River Ganga. It appears 5 days later, instead, these same protesters have now withdrawn their protest, but with a disclaimer that they are in solidarity with the case and the victims. They will continue their fight for justice. In fact, I did speak to Sakshi Malik myself a little earlier today, where I did ask her if they are going to come back at a protest site. This kind of protest was really mounting pressure on the police. Certainly, action hasn't been taken as per their demands, but the case is on in court as well. It is going as per law. When I asked Sakshi Malik if they are going to come back to the protest site, she says, we'll see. Listen in. I'm going to cut across to Sakshi Malik, who joins us on the phone line. Sakshi ji, आपने protest से आप दूर हट गए हैं, क्या हुआ है? आपने इंडियन रेलवेज वापस ज्वाइन कर दिया है. आपका क्या कहना है? ये इमेजेस जो हमें आया है, आपने ये निर्णय कब लिया?
बिल्कुल भी हमने अपना आंदोलन से जो स्टेप है वो बिल्कुल वापस नहीं लिया है और ना ही लेंगे. जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिल जाता, हमारी लड़ाई, हमारा सत्याग्रह जारी रहेगा और हम लड़ते रहेंगे. और रही बात रेलवे की, तो मेरी कुछ जिम्मेवारियां थी, तो मैंने यहाँ आके अपने 1-2 काम देखे हैं. लेकिन ये बात मैं क्लियर करना चाहूँगी, ये अफवाहें जो है ये हमारे आंदोलन को कमजोर करने के लिए फैलाई जा रही है.
जी साक्षी जी, आप धरना में नहीं बैठेंगे, तो ये मतलब हुआ कि आप वापस अपने ड्यूटी पर चले गए हैं, तो धरना में बैठेंगे नहीं अब?
वो जो भी होगा आगे हम बता देंगे. अभी हम रणनीति बना रहे हैं कि आगे हम इस लड़ाई को कैसे और नया रूप दे सकते हैं, कैसे हम आगे बढ़ सकते हैं.
All right, now just to quickly elaborate on what Sakshi Malik said and her intentions. In fact, my colleague Nitin spoke to her in a longer conversation. Here's Sakshi Malik explaining to why they've withdrawn the protest and claims that she will continue in solidarity, or rather will go on with the protest in isolation. Listen in.
साक्षी, ये खबरें मीडिया में चल रही हैं कि आपने रेलवेज की नौकरी को दोबारा ज्वाइन कर लिया है और आपने जो है आंदोलन से बैक ऑफ कर दिया है.
बिल्कुल आंदोलन से बिल्कुल भी वापस नहीं हटे हैं हम. जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिल जाता, लड़ाई जारी रहेगी, सत्याग्रह बिल्कुल जारी रहेगा. और रही बात रेलवेज़ की, तो आंदोलन के साथ साथ अपना 1-2 काम, अपनी जिम्मेवारी मैं निभा रही हूँ. तो 1-2 दिन में ऑफिस का काम देख रही हूँ.
साक्षी, ये कहा जा रहा है कि आंदोलन से आप हट गई हैं, अब आप आंदोलन का हिस्सा नहीं हैं, आपने रेलवे की नौकरी ज्वाइन कर ली है 30 तारीख से. कितनी सच्चाई है?
ये मैं क्लियर कर देती हूँ आपको कि जैसे हम रणनीति बना रहे हैं आगे की, आगे हमें क्या करना है और कुछ भी हिंसाजनक ना हो और आगे हम अच्छे से कैसे इस प्रोटेस्ट को बढ़ा सकते हैं, तो उस पर हम काम कर रहे हैं, रणनीति बना रहे हैं. और रही बात रेलवेज़ की, तो मैं OST फर्स्ट हूँ और मेरी बहुत सारी जिम्मेवारी हैं. तो जब तक रणनीतियाँ चल रही हैं, प्रोटेस्ट पे नहीं बैठे हैं, तो मैं यहाँ अपना काम देख रही हूँ.
नाबालिग जो लड़की है उसके बारे में भी कुछ जानकारियां आई हैं कि बयान वापस लिया है पॉक्सो।
नहीं, ये सब फेक न्यूज़ हैं। ये हमारे सत्याग्रह, हमारे प्रोटेस्ट को कमज़ोर करने के लिए, आम पब्लिक को हमसे तोड़ने के लिए ये सारी चीज़ें चलाई गई हैं, जो कि बिल्कुल गलत है। हम इस लड़ाई में ना ही कभी पीछे हटे थे, ना ही कभी हटेंगे। जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिल जाता, लड़ाई जारी रहेगी।
गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जी से आपकी मुलाकात हुई थी, आपकी और बाकी के प्लेयर्स की। कब मुलाकात हुई? मुलाकात में क्या रहा, क्या निष्कर्ष निकला?
नॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन थी और कुछ नहीं ऐसा फाइनल सॉल्यूशन निकला। हमारा टिल एंड तक यही रहेगा कि अक्यूज्ड को गिरफ्तार करो, उसके ऊपर सीरियस एक्ट लगे, गिरफ्तार करो। नॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन हुई थी और कुछ नहीं।
साक्षी कहा जा रहा है कि बजरंग अकेले रह गए, विनेश और आपने नाम वापस ले लिया।
बिल्कुल भी नहीं, हम तीनों एक हैं इस प्रोटेस्ट में, और जब तक इंसाफ नहीं मिल जाता एक ही रहेंगे, और बिल्कुल भी नाम हमने वापस नहीं लिया है।
All right, Sakshi Malik's family. The moment news broke out that Sakshi Malik has withdrawn protest, there were lots of questions being raised on whether Sakshi has pulled out support itself from the cause. But family members also have now reiterated what Sakshi has said, saying that she is very much standing by her statement and her demand, wanting for Brij Bhushan's arrest. She is just only going to be returning to her duty for the moment. Listen in.
जैसे जंतर मंतर पे जो घटना हमारे साथ हुई है 28 तारीख को, हमको वहाँ पे ना जाने की परमिशन है। हम जैसे ही इस आंदोलन को वापस धरातल पे लेके आएंगे, वैसे ही जो है हम प्रोटेस्ट वापस शुरू करेंगे। बीच में कोई छोटा मोटा काम होगा वो उस बारे में उन्होंने ट्वीट करके जानकारी दे दी है। और लगातार 3 दिन से खबर है कि हमारा समझौता हो गया, वो भी झूठ है। पोस्को ने नाम वापस ले लिया उनके पिता का, वो भी बयान आ गया है, वो भी झूठ है। हम जो है लगातार डटे हुए हैं। आगे की जो भी प्रक्रिया होगी वो आपको जल्द बता दी जाएगी।
हमारी साक्षी मलिक से बात हुई है, कोई तो आंदोलन वापस नहीं हुआ है। आंदोलन प्रॉपर तरीके से चलता रहेगा। रही नौकरी ज्वाइनिंग, वो एक जिम्मेवार पद पे है, वहाँ जिम्मेवारी पद के हिसाब से वो दोनों काम संभाल रही है, आंदोलन भी संभाल रही है, और अपने को जैसे जिम्मेवारी के पद के हिसाब से एक आध बार चली गई होगी तो नौकरी ज्वाइन ला लो या वैसे ला लो, मतलब एक बड़ा पद होने के कारण उसकी जिम्मेवारी बढ़ती है। जो काम रुकता है तो उसको सुचारू रूप से चालू रखा जाए।
धरना तो चलता रहेगा जी। और जो ज्वाइनिंग की बात है वो एक बहुत बड़े पद पे बैठी हैं जिसपे उनके साइनिंग वगैरह की रिक्वायरमेंट रहती है, तो वो उस पे अपना जो उनका कर्तव्य है वो भी पूरा कर रही है और अपना सत्याग्रह भी पूरा कर रही है। नहीं, ये सारी बातें विड्रॉ करने वाली बातें हैं, सारी गलत बात हैं, झूठी बातें हैं। कोई आंदोलन विड्रॉ नहीं हुआ है, जो आंदोलन है वो चलता रहेगा।
All right, we know many of the wrestlers have spoken with this regard, may not have pledged support to the wrestlers, but of course speaking for the wrestling fraternity of India, claiming that this has really brought a lot of shame for the wrestling community and fraternity, and of course India's image globally has certainly been hit. Listen in.
मेरे को भी आपके माध्यम से पता लगा है, मीडिया के माध्यम से, और मेरी किसी भी पहलवान से कोई बातचीत नहीं है। पर अगर साक्षी मलिक ने अपने वापिस रेलवे में की नौकरी ज्वाइन की है, छुट्टी पे थी, तो उन्हें कुछ सोच समझ के अच्छा फैसला लिया, जहाँ तक मेरा मानना है। क्योंकि पहलवान अभी एशियन गेम्स है, अगले ओलंपिक है, और कुश्ती काफी बुरे दौर से गुजर रही है। ओलंपिक 4 ओलंपिक मेडल बात भी जो पिछले ये टाइम है तो काफी बुरा कुश्ती का लिए रहा। और मेरा मानना है कि साक्षी मलिक ने अगर ये फैसला किया है तो कुछ सोच समझ कर अच्छा फैसला है, जहाँ तक मैं मानता हूँ। क्योंकि पुलिस एफआईआर दर्ज कर चुकी है, जांच चल रही है, कोर्ट अपना काम करेगा, न्यायालय अपना काम करेगा, और किसी कुछ गलत किया तो सजा मिलनी चाहिए। तो अभी अपना पूरा फोकस अभी एशियन गेम्स और ओलंपिक के लिए लगाए।
फिर पता चला कि जैसे माननीय गृह मंत्री जी से मिले हैं और उनकी बातें हुई हैं, तो कहीं ना कहीं उनकी जो बातें थी, उनकी जो मांगे थी वो पूरी हुई हैं, और जिस वजह से उन्होंने स्टेप लिया है। और एक चीज मैं यहाँ पे कहना चाहूंगी कि माननीय प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी और गृह मंत्री अमित शाह जी हमेशा, हमारी पार्टी हमेशा संवेदनशील, महिलाओं को लेकर, बेटियों को लेकर हमेशा संवेदनशील रही है।
All right, I'm going to quickly cut across to Milind Sharma, who's been tracking those developments. Milind, there was a lot of talk that wrestlers who are fronting this protest, Olympians, have now changed their mind, withdrawn from the protest, not too sure why. But quickly, these wrestlers came out refuting those claims, saying they are very much standing with that cause. They're just parting from the protest site and going back to their regular duties and are going to wait and hope that justice takes its course. Tell us more on all the questions that were raised about their sudden withdrawal. What really happened? Give us the timeline.
This is crazy. Whatever. Well, Nabila, there is much to be discussed behind the reasons that have actually led them to resume their jobs in the Northern Railways on the 31st of May. This has happened right after they have returned from Haridwar, where they were going to immerse their medals that they have worked so hard to win for the country. And there they were stopped by Rakesh and Naresh Tikait, and they were told to have given a 5-day ultimatum or a time of 5 days to decide what should be the next course of action for the protest. But in the meantime, we hear that they have resumed their jobs in the government, that also in the Northern Railways, because Sakshi Malik, along with Bajrang Punia and Vinesh Phogat, have some files that they need to sign. They are appointed as officers on special duty in the sports department of the railways. And now the fact that the government had already removed them from the Jantar Mantar premises, all their tents and all were also removed. Will they be allowed to physically carry on the protest is the real question. We no doubt don't question the fact that they are genuinely, standing for their cause and they are fighting for the cause. That is there. But will they be allowed to physically raise their voice and protest once again after being put in a government job, which they have accepted, and they have not given us reasons why they have accepted to be part of the government job? So that is one very big question there, Nabila.
So whether there was the meeting with Home Minister Amit Shah was indeed fruitful or not is again clarity we don't have, even though the wrestlers claimed that the meeting with Amit Shah was inconclusive. But quickly, right after the meeting, we believe they've decided to call off their protest. So a lot of unanswered questions, but one thing's for sure, what really takes the takeaway from this is that the protesters have withdrawn their sit-in protest that went on for over a month and have now decided to continue their protests while they go on with their routine duty at the railways, the government job that's allotted to them. We're going to, of course, continue tracking those developments, but slipping into a short break on the other side, coming back with the Bihar bridge collapse. Second time around, crores of rupees spent, nearly a decade, and that bridge hasn't yet completed. But look at the way that bridge there, falling like a pack of cards. We're going to take you through the reasons behind it. Stay with us.
Hours after one of India's worst ever train tragedies, Prime Minister Narendra Modi reached Balasore, Odisha. He waited till the rescue work got over before making the visit to the accident site. The Prime Minister was accompanied by Railway Minister Ashwini Vaishnav and Union Minister Dharmendra Pradhan, both from the state of Odisha. Later, he headed to a hospital to meet the injured. West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee had visited the accident site earlier. She met Minister Vaishnav and took stock of the situation.
रेलवे को स्पेशली ट्रीट नहीं करने से क्या होता है, कोऑर्डिनेशन गैप हो गया है. मैंने जब मिनिस्टर था, मैंने एंटी कॉल्यूशन डिवाइस तैयार किया था. इसमें एंटी कॉल्यूशन डिवाइस नहीं लगाया, जितना तक मेरे का जानकारी है. अगर एंटी कॉल्यूशन डिवाइस लगाता था तो कोई इंसिडेंट नहीं होता.
While Mamata claimed that the time wasn't right for politics, her party men slammed the centre for not installing anti-collision devices on passenger trains on this route.
One must find out what are the causes of the accident. Responsibility must be fixed. In a similar accident in Gaisal, few years earlier, Nitish Kumar, who was the railway minister, had resigned. The railway minister, Ashwini Vaishnav, should consider whether he should resign also.
The Congress urged against any politicization of the tragedy.
I have to ask many questions to our great Prime Minister and also the railway minister, they have to answer why such things are happening and who is responsible for this. But today we have to extend the relief to the suffering people.
Summers are devastating for stray animals. The scorching heat wave means animals living on the street struggle for water. Karma Foundation is on a mission to make life easy for stray animals.
This water bowl challenge is also one of such initiatives where we know during the scorching heats of summer has to provide the basic requirement for the health of the pet, which is water, and hence we are actually donating the water bowls.
These water bowls are a big relief for stray animals living under the open sky in sweltering weather. Karma Foundation has requested people to join their movement by placing a bowl of water outside their home or workplace. Bureau Report, India Today.
Welcome back. We're looking at Bihar's bridge that's collapsed second time in a year. Well, a lot of questions raised on the material used behind this construction. And what's shocking is that the builder was given 8 deadlines in the last 9 years, but yet despite him delaying the project that was started in 2014, he was not penalized once. And now with this bridge collapse, thankfully no injuries have taken place because nobody was there. None of the workers were there while that construction was happening. It was late in the evening on Sunday. Chief Minister Nitish Kumar has now said that they will ensure the guilty is punished or the person responsible for it will be penalized. But empty promises, 10 years, nearly 10 years, and this bridge hasn't yet completed its construction itself. I'm going to take you through the sequence of events, what really happened, the opposition accusing the Nitish government of absolute corruption and failure in relation to this bridge.
This is what Bhagalpur district was promised in 2014. A swanky 4-lane hanging bridge across the Ganga connecting Aguwani Ghat to Sultanganj. But the reality is this. And not once, but twice in a span of 1 year, the bridge collapsed in a gust of wind. What happened on 4th June was quite similar to what happened last year on 30th April. And this bridge, nearly a decade after Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar laid its foundation stone, is under construction because its deadlines have been extended 8 times in last 9 years. When the construction work started in 2016, the deadline was November 2019. Not even 25% work was completed. So the deadline was extended by a month first and then by a year. 2020 came and the deadline now became 2021. The construction company SP Singla was not penalized for the delay but given more and more time as the deadline got pushed to 1st March 2022 and then to December. But then on 30th April, the superstructure between pillar number 4 and 6 of the bridge fell due to strong wind and rain. Serious questions were raised about the construction work, but no action was taken against the company. Instead, the deadline was revised to 1st March 2023, then June 2023, and then to December 2023.
We are at Sector 12 in Panchkula, and this happens to be the headquarters of SP Singla Constructions Private Limited, which was constructing the bridge. This is a well-established brand of a construction company which is operating in many states. We spoke to the officers of this company who refused to come on camera, saying that a technical team of this company is currently on a Bihar visit. They will be assessing the situation and we'll find out how the bridge collapsed.
This bridge is important for Bihar as it connects north to south, and SP Singla is a trusted construction company with multiple ongoing bridges across Bihar.
That is the SP Singla Construction Company, which is right now in Bihar carrying out several projects. And apart from that Bhagalpur project, which has now collapsed in the river Ganga, there are about half a dozen more projects that this company has in hand right now. A new Gandhi Setu is being constructed. The tender of this entire project has been given to SP Singla Construction Company Limited. Another bridge also in Patna over Ganga is being built by the same company, just parallel to the JP Setu. And a third bridge on Ganga is being constructed by the same company in Mokama also.
पहले से हम लोगों को शंका थी इसमें डिजाइन में.
Bihar's Deputy CM has clarified that after the bridge collapsed for the first time, IIT Roorkee investigated and the bridge was broken because there were doubts about the design. And the Chief Minister has promised strict action.
हाँ तो ये ठीक नहीं, हम तो पूरा कह दिया जांच करें और जांच करके एक्शन होगा, और जो अगर ठीक से नहीं कर रहा तो उसकी जगह पर कोई दूसरे तरफ से करवाया जाएगा।
पहली बार गिरा था तब क्या
देखिए हमको बहुत तकलीफ है, आप जान लीजिए, हम तो चाह रहे थे बहुत जल्दी हो जाए, आखिर मेरी इच्छा थी ना जी।
Opposition has slammed the Nitish-led government for corruption in construction projects.
Today, the entire country, and particularly the people of Bihar, have seen the visuals of the bridge of corruption that has collapsed under the weight of the corrupt JDU-RJD government. This bridge of corruption is the proof and testimony of how Mr. Nitish Kumar ji has transmutated from Sushasan Babu to Bhashtachari Babu.
While the experts debate over the accountability and reason for the collapse of the bridge, the reality is Bhagalpur Dream Bridge remains a distant dream. Bureau Report, India Today.
Well, you saw that, a sheer waste of taxpayers' money. How can Nitish Kumar's pet project really fall like a pack of cards? Is there a nexus between the Neta, Babu and the builder? Well, we're looking at corruption. That could be a likely reason that's led to poor quality material used for this infrastructure. Rain can surely not be the reason that Nitish Kumar can pin the blame on. We're hoping that they get to the bottom of it and take speedy action. Thank you very much for watching 6 PM Prime.
Even as the electric two-wheeler market was getting charged to its full potential, people are questioning whether the government has prematurely pulled the plug. Companies like Ola, Ather, TVS and Matter have increased prices of their e-scooter models after the central government trimmed its subsidies. Ola has increased the prices of its base S1 Air model to 1 lakh rupees and on the S1 model to 1.3 lakh rupees. The top-end Pro model will now cost 1.4 lakh rupees ex-showroom. The Ather 450X has seen a price hike of a massive 32,500 rupees. Prices of the TVS iQube are up by 17 to 22,000 rupees. While prices of Bajaj Chetak have shot up to 22,000 rupees. The price hike follows a crucial decision by the government to cut subsidies under its faster adoption and manufacturing of hybrid and electric vehicles, or FAME-2 scheme. Under the revised norms, subsidies will be capped at 15% of the ex-factory price of the vehicle against 40% earlier. For the Ola S1, this means that the subsidy amount has been cut from 44,700 to 20,678 rupees. On the more expensive S1 Pro, the subsidy is down to 22,268 rupees from 59,550 rupees.
I mean, these are very nominal price increases that we have taken. I think single digit perhaps in terms of percentage. Right. So these are normal course of business is how I'd classify them. Right. We have product lineups coming at various price points. So we have our own pricing and product strategy, which obviously cannot be disclosed in the public. So we are very strategic in the way we take our calls on price and product. So you will you have to see this play out over the next 6 months.
E-scooters were already considered costlier than their traditional ICE counterparts. The only big advantage are the massively low running costs. While the industry remains bullish and insists that the price hikes will not keep customers away and dent sales, analysts believe otherwise. The market has taken off in the past few months. With sales of e-scooters zooming 66% between January and April this year in comparison to last year. Sales of electric cars have risen a whopping 127% in the same period, although on a much lower base.
This was under the FAME 2 subsidy scheme.
Hello and welcome to our special broadcast. We are coming to you live from London, and what is my exact location? I don't need to tell you that if you're a cricket fan, because right behind me you can see those gas lines, and if you've been watching cricket, you know exactly which stadium I'm standing in at the moment, because that is very typical of the Oval. You've seen it for the years because of that gas factory that exists, and that's one of the landmarks that actually distinguish you between Oval and all the other cricket grounds across the world. So it's the Oval that is going to be the center of all attraction, because the biggest game in cricket is going to be played here in exactly 2 days' time. So it is match day -2, as we call it, match day -2 from the final of the World Test Championship. India versus Australia. It's the first time for Australia in the final of the World Test Championship. On the other hand, India have been at this stage before. It was the very same country, not the same ground. That game happened in Southampton, and unfortunately for India, they ended up on the losing side. So now Rohit Sharma and his men would want to reverse that disappointment that they had 2 years ago in the final of the WTC. They'd like to change that. Different opposition, different venue, as I've been telling you. Behind me is the Indian team right now practicing. What you see right behind me are the two wicket keepers in KS Bharat and Ishan Kishan. We still don't know which one of them is going to be playing, but they are hard at practicing. Both of them are doing glove work, which means any one of them could make it to the playing 11. Behind that, in those nets, you've got the likes of Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, Ravichandran Ashwin, Ravindra Jadeja. All of them are out here. Right now, the sun is also out and practicing on the practice pitches that are available on the ground. The center pitch is going to be the match pitch, and we've got a special report on that as well coming up a little later in the program. But we'll start our broadcast with which team is the favorite. One thing that has been at the moment agreed by one and all is the fact that the two best teams in Test cricket at the moment, India and Australia, have reached the final of the World Test Championship. But which team has the edge, keeping in mind the condition, keeping in mind the current form? We asked this question in an event to stalwarts of the game in Ricky Ponting and Wasim Akram, and this is the team that they've picked. Let's listen in.
Slight favourites, yeah. Slight. Yeah, only slight, yeah. No, I mean, there wasn't much between them through a 2-year cycle, right, between those two teams. So that says that these two teams through 2 years have beaten more opposition than they've lost to, and they deserve to finish first and second. Now, the interesting thing as far as preparation is concerned is that, you know, some of the Australians have done nothing.
Yeah.
They haven't been playing any cricket at all. At least all the Indian guys have been playing very competitive cricket in the IPL. So, coming in fresh for a Cummins without any cricket, is that better? Or is it coming in maybe slightly jaded and slightly tired on the back of an IPL, but having played a lot of cricket leading in? So there's lots of factors that could show up through the course of this week.
I, as a player, always have a bit of cricket behind me. You know, come in handy playing. Doesn't matter the format, as long as I'm playing cricket. It all depends. Some people need rest, some players don't. And I would prefer to play, you know, had one series or maybe a tournament like IPL and then come into play. You know, match practice.
Do you have a prediction at all?
I agree with Ricky. It's Australia slightly favourite. It depends on the weather as well. And I think weather has been excellent, will be excellent for 7th onwards, like this, the way it is. And toss is also crucial. And pitch also matter, but Australia is slightly favourite.
Okay, very interesting. We heard the two experts there, two legends of the sport in Ricky Ponting, Wasim Akram, both of them actually giving Australia the slight edge. And the reason behind that, the two of them had given, is the fact that the conditions here might favour the Australian team. These are English conditions which are closer to Australia than they are to India. That's why these two legends have picked Australia as the slight favourites. However, I'd like to remind everyone who's thinking along the same lines, the fact that in these conditions, India have done rather well in the recent past. Remember, if the conditions here are like that in Australia, India went to Australia the last two tours and they won the series that they played in the exact same conditions. What about conditions here in England? India came here last time around and were leading the series 2-1 before they had to go back. So overall, even if the conditions may be more like Australia than they are in India, even in these conditions, the Indian team has a slightly better record than Australia in the recent past. So maybe that is also something that needs to be considered. Maybe Rohit Sharma, the Indian captain, is well aware of this. He was asked about what is it that they need to do to succeed in these conditions, especially considering that they are coming off a white ball season, a hectic IPL where the ball was different, conditions were different, the playing style was very different. How are they going to adjust to these conditions? This is what Rohit Sharma said.
Yeah, look, I think England in general, is pretty challenging conditions for the batters. But as long as you're prepared to have a good grind, you can have some success. As a batter, one thing I realized batting last year, I think year before that, it was that you're never in, actually. Because the weather keeps changing a lot. So you got to keep concentrating for longer periods of time. And that is the challenge of, this format. You got to keep concentrating for longer periods of time. You'll get that message, or you can get that intuition. When is your time to take the bowlers on? And that is when you should be ready for it. And more importantly, you need to be there. And yeah, it's batting, opening the batting. Obviously, you got to understand what your strengths are. I've watched a lot of batters opening the batting here in these conditions, and a lot of the guys who've had success, I've seen them how they've gone about, scoring those runs. Obviously, I'm not going to try and emulate them because they all have different style. I have different style, but it's nice to know the pattern of scoring runs here, as we know that this is probably one of the best batting wickets as well. You get value for your shots. The square boundaries are quite quick. So it's just about, giving yourself the best chance of having success, which is, to concentrate for longer periods of time.
Yeah, so like you rightly said, I at least from the time I have probably been playing or been following cricket, I'm not sure if there's actually been a test match played in June. I'm not sure before that. I'm not sure historically if there's actually ever been cricket played in June. But yeah, a lot of the data and a lot of the stats that we looked at over the last bit is obviously, like you said, skewed towards the end of the summer in the UK. Wickets are slightly different. They're slightly more tired, having played here in the past. So yeah, it might be different conditions, but we just have to react to that. I mean, it's not something that we'll just have to react when what we see on in terms of the conditions and how it plays out in the middle. So and hopefully we have the resources and the ability to deal with whatever comes in front of us.
Okay, interesting thoughts those from the Indian camp. We heard first from Captain Rohit Sharma, and you can sense the kind of pragmatism in his voice and his thoughts, where Rohit talks about he knows exactly what India needs to do in these conditions because they've been playing here, they keep touring England, they understand exactly what you need to do. The other bit that came from the Indian coach Rahul Dravid, in fact, his press conference just got over a short while ago, where he spoke about various things, including the conditions that you just heard. The conditions also keep changing. Not a lot of people will know how the test match will play out as far as the conditions are concerned, because it's happened for the very first time that you're going to see a test match being played at the Oval Cricket Ground in the history of this ground, that a test match would be played in June. Usually it happens in July, end of July. On most occasions, it even happens in August. First time you're having it in the early part of the summer, that is June. So not a lot of data to look back as to how the conditions will play out. That is why the Indian team is a bit circumspect. They're taking it step by step, trying to understand the conditions. They are understanding the conditions as I speak, because right behind me, you can see the entire Indian contingent out practicing in the sun. And the sun is a rare sight today. Yesterday, when I came to England, it was a nice, bright, sunny day. It wasn't like that today. As you could gauge from my attire,